Naomi, you've been at this a long time. Brian's got an amazing piece up in the Substack. Why is this a big day? Why is the mainstream media suppressing this? Walk me through this, because you've been fighting on this one ever since you came on the show.
Yeah, it's another big victory for the posse, I have to say. I mean, the posse's just racking up the victories. RFK Jr. literally just started his job, and the president is signaling that he's behind some of the key elements of the agenda that made RFK Jr. so threatening to the establishment and to the pharma-funded establishment. So, as Mr. Festa pointed out, it's an executive order to defund education organizations, and there are none of them left. There are 15 colleges and universities. They're still, to this day, 2025, mandating students to get the latest COVID booster. I mean, they are killing these kids slowly, or not so slowly. And these are like serious colleges. They include colleges like Spelman, Morehouse, the historic Black colleges, USF, Oberlin, Bryn Mawr, Haverford, Swarthmore. Universities that definitely should know better, but that got the money to inject their students. So it's a powerful signal from the president. And it's also another important effect is all of these universities and schools and even the high schools pushed this vaccine on kids and young adults because of the money that they were getting from the federal government through the CARES Act, through vast sums of money to mandate children. And I mean, I went to a high school meeting in upstate New York where high school students were not allowed to play basketball unless they were vaccinated. And there was literally nothing in the law that said that even. It's just that the schools were getting such buckets of money, millions of dollars, to traffic the kids' bodies, essentially, for pharma. So what this does, in addition to protecting those students at those universities that still mandate this injection, it also kind of signals, it kind of undoes the poison of all of these millions flowing to trafficking kids. And I think it's a shot across the bow of the pharmaceutical industry. I recognize that President Trump can't go in, guns blazing, to do everything that we in the medical freedom movement think that he should do. RFK Jr. can't either. That's, realistic. That's politics. However, it is a very dramatic gesture toward indicating if he can do this executive order, he can do an executive order with the next insane injection that they try to mandate. So I see his method, 3 weeks in, he rattles the cages, he scares everyone to death, and then they back off. So it's not the end of the monster of out of control pharma, but it's a crack of the whip in the direction of the monster. That's a powerful one. And the last thing I want to say is, I think it's also incredibly symbolic in relationship to parents' rights. And President Trump has said, the White House has messaged that this is about parents' rights. So, which is smart, it makes it more difficult for the legacy media or Democrats in Congress to say, you're a lunatic anti-vaxxer, President Trump, because he's wrapping it in the mantle of parents get to decide. The school doesn't get to decide. The state doesn't get to decide what goes into your child's body. You are raising your child. It's your decision as a parent. So powerful.
Naomi, do you see it playing out that way? Is that the sophisticated move that the tyrants are going to pull?
I definitely see Mr. Festa's point. Absolutely. And I live in one of the states where parents whom I know have a difficult time trying to get a religious exemption for their high school students. He's right. The minute one door shuts at a federal level, they will try to open other doors at the state level. And it is a very bad, as he said, a bad domino move that Hawaii is trying to circumvent that by withdrawing religious exemptions. It's really evil, and I don't even understand how the Constitution lets a state withdraw religious exemptions, because we have freedom of religion, and that's guaranteed by the Constitution. So I don't understand how those 4 states have managed to have those carve-outs. But even states that ostensibly give religious exemptions, they can make it very, very difficult. I mean, I remember during COVID, many people were trying to get religious exemptions from many institutions. And it was just a nauseating, heartbreaking drama because they were writing these heartfelt statements about how they feel, from a religious perspective. And, functionaries were just rubber stamping, no, 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 no. And at Yale in 2023, my alma mater, they were forcing the students to get the booster, which had been tested on 8 mice, the bivalent booster, and they exempted the faculty and the administrators, but students trying to get religious exemptions, and their press said, "Oh, it's fine, we give religious exemptions," but none of the parents I heard had been able to secure them.
I remember when you were up there, we were covering that live when you couldn't re-register, you couldn't go back to school. You got in this Ivy League school, regardless of where the grades, if you didn't get the shot, you had to leave, correct?
That's exactly right. Yeah, the kids were out, a $60,000 tuition bill if they didn't put their bodies on the line. One of the most evil things I've ever seen done to American college students.
I've got limited time. I want to get to you and Brian before we go. And I realize, Naomi, you're one of these free speech, First Amendment, transparency, radical transparency. You like to know what's going on. You never like to cede power to anybody because you think power corrupts and ultimate power corrupts, absolute power corrupts, and power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. You've had a big problem with Elon Musk, as we have here, but you've taken it a couple of notches above. Don't you need Doge and Elon Musk to break the cartel inside of CDC and NIH and Collins? I mean, is Bobby Kennedy, even as head of HHS, is he really going to be able to get into the guts of that thing the way that is a closed shop? Doesn't it almost take a radical disruptor like an Elon Musk to do it that could do more, do it quicker, do it more radically, and leave more trauma on these institutions, which they need in order to open them up, than even a Bobby Kennedy, who's kind of a little bit been boxed, and that's what the confirmation hearings are for. If they can't defeat him, to smear him enough and to box him into a corner to kind of limit what he can do, because they can come back and say, well, you promised you weren't going to do that. Don't you actually need an Elon Musk type on this, or do you not, ma'am?
I mean, theoretically, sure. And thank you so much for amplifying a fight with the richest and probably one of the most powerful men in the world. Now I'm terrified, but it is true. I wrote an essay pointing out how very, very worried I am about the way it's not that Elon Musk shouldn't get in there and root out corruption and advise the president about what he thinks should be cut, what is malfeasance, what is fraud, what is waste. Of course he should. That's exactly what he should do. And other special advisors to the president have had similar roles. And sure, being a technologist theoretically lets him get through those data sets more quickly. But I'm a CEO of a tech company, and my company deals with government data sets and APIs exactly like the content that Elon Musk is looking at. And I know, and I showed in my essay, that what's really scary isn't that he went in there and reviewed it. It's the way he did it without basic cybersecurity precautions in such a way that the data could be changed, the data could be breached. There were not clear conflict of interest resolutions that came back to bite them, just today, as I believe the White House pulled back against a $400 million sale of defense equipment with Tesla. There are NDAs. As CEO of a company, I don't understand how Musk can be CEO or lead 6 companies, and the cloud computing guy can have a cloud computing company, and there's no conflict of interest. Like the data sets are so vast, Steve, that they're looking at, and the allegiances that they owe to their own shareholders are so immense that there is no way, I believe the president has the best intentions, but you can't know that there are no conflicts of interest. But really the cybersecurity issues, which many independent, nonpartisan cybersecurity publications were horrified about, are what really scare me. And lastly, I really want people to realize that AI isn't neutral. If the government is pared down by Elon Musk and handed over to Elon Musk's AI, right, not our AI, it could mean that there's no accountability, there's no one to sue if your rights are violated. If AI censors you, you can't. Who are you going to go to court against, right? I mean, the theft of the how can I put it? Absorption of all of our personal sensitive data. It could have been out the door during that weekend in which Elon Musk and his 6 very young engineers were alone.
If you're faced with a stark choice to let Doge go in and take a blunt force instrument to NIH, Dr. Collins, all of them, that cabal, or just to pass because you are concerned about privacy issues and data and all the things you just laid out, what's your choice, ma'am?
No, that's Steve. I love you to bits, but that's totally a false choice. Those are not the only two choices.
Steve Bannon would give. Hold it. You're saying Steve Bannon would give somebody a false choice on War Room? No. So what? Okay. What is the choice then?
The choice is to do it legally and securely. And that's better for the president, too, because then it's not going to be undone by the courts. I mean, those people who tried to stop Elon Musk from going in without normal cybersecurity oversight, they were doing their jobs for the American people. Everyone loves to hate the government, but do it securely, do it with independent oversight, do it without conflicts of interest, do it with NDAs, which we don't know if they've signed, do it with non-competes, which we don't.
You don't believe that, although the guys at Treasury are trying to stop getting maybe potential personal information, you don't believe that was just the deep state and the administrative state protecting themselves from someone who was going to expose their corruption, ma'am?
I can't know until there's an investigation, but I do know that normal cybersecurity steps were not taken. From what I read, I laid it out very clearly. I interviewed cybersecurity experts. There are cybersecurity experts all over the world who are appalled. And it's because once our data is out the door, there's no getting it back. Yeah. And it's not trivial. All of us could, why is the cloud guy there? What do you need a cloud for? You need a cloud to hold data, right? I mean, do I need to explain? Maybe I need to explain more clearly why this is such a serious risk, but we don't.
Well, hold on. I tell you what we ought to do first. Yeah, I tell you what we ought to do first. Let's get everybody access. Where do they go to your Substack? Let's read the piece first so people are up to speed, and then we'll have you back on and break it down in more detail. I was trying to put you on the spot with the choice. You didn't take the bait, though, Wolf. You didn't take the bait. Pretty good. Pretty well trained.
Not my first rodeo, Steve. I'm not going to go for the false
Okay, social media and where they go get your Substack to get this piece so we can all read it.
It's called the Sack of Rome, and it's on Substack, which is called Outspoken.
The Sack of Rome by the Visigoths. Ma'am, thank you so much. Naomi Wolf, thank you. Thank you for staying up well past midnight in Lithuania.
Lithuania, yeah.
One of my besties was put up to be the ambassador to Lithuania as a Navy admiral. And
really?
He was one of the guys McConnell hated so much. Yeah, well, he was Sonny Masso, great Admiral Sonny Masso, and a great naval officer. And McConnell hated this is how McConnell plays. He hated all of Trump's the third wave of ambassadors we put up were pure MAGA. He hated them so much, I don't think any of them ever got a vote. It was like Michael Pack. This thing dragged on for years, No, McConnell's a bad guy. Naomi, we got to bounce. We'll read it. We'll read The Sack of Rome, and we'll get you back on to walk through it, okay?
Thank you so much. Thank you, Steve.